Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. We're on the series of talks on New Life. Hello Dr. Laitman. Hello everyone. In the past few days you said that you feel that we have to start developing explanation materials for radical situations that might occur in our country. And I'd like to dedicate our conversation today to that. So my first question would be, what radical situation do you see that might happen? Extreme situation, and then how to deal with it. First of all, this stems from Israel being the center of the world. They have to bring the correction to the world. They have to set an example for the world, to be the light for the nations and the kingdom of priests and holy nation, as Bala Sulam says. Of course, the emphasis on the correction and the center of correction, meaning the change which the world has to undergo to a new level of existence, it all has to come from here. From the Jews in the land of Israel and the Jews in the world, and also all of our friends from all over the world, wherever they are, and later on, the rest of humanity. This way, Bala Sulam explains this to us in the end of the introduction to the book of Zohar, that the correction comes from the internality to the externality of the world, and therefore, first and foremost, we have to care for the connection between us, here, in the land of Israel. And all the problems and troubles, even though in the meantime they're happening in remote places, as if far from us, and we don't yet really feel that we're in crisis, but we hear that something's going on in Europe, like, some faraway war or something, and we're as if in hinterland, but it's untrue. To the extent to which we advance, the whole place where all the problems and pressures will come to, the whole location for will move here. And what problems do I view? Of all kinds, because if we say that we're falling behind in bringing light to the nations, bringing light to the people, and also for ourselves, in order for us to be able to do it for them. So the lack of the light is felt on all levels of life and all forms and manners of life. And therefore, it's not that we simply feel now that there are problems in education, in medicine, that the summer is a bit too warm. It's like in the whole world. And really, lately, we see we were relatively protected, more protected than the rest of the world from the ongoing problems, even though that we like to cry and say that the situation is hard and so on. But really, it's not that bad. However, if we continue falling behind in our inner development, and we won't take care of our unity, of our unification, in order to be the source, the origin of spirituality to the world, for the revelation of the Creator, both for ourselves and for the whole world, then of course these pressures from the broad world will come closer and will accumulate here around the land of Israel and within the people of Israel. And in order for that not to happen, therefore I say that we have to prepare ourselves for harder states. To prepare ourselves, it means to be much more connected, much more crystallized, to take on a uniform, a unanimous form as much as possible, as one man and one heart, in arvut, in unity, all of Israel friends, love of Israel, and so on. What we can explain both from our teachings and also from our history. It gives us an example from the past. This is what I mean by preparing ourselves for hard times, that if we do it, they won't come, meaning the wise who foresees the future, he prepares himself for it. The elderly, meaning he who has chokhmah, who is wise, meaning that he goes bent over as if he has lost something, because before he lost something, he is already looking for what is that deficiency that might reveal that to begin with I want to be ready for, and to arrange myself so that I will already get it in a ready form, and then this deficiency, this problem won't come to me and open in its full depth and bitterness, but on the contrary, I will then use it in the right rational fashion, where upon these deficiencies I will grow, I will acquire more and more wisdom to draw the light of Chokhmah into my vessels. This is what the elderly, wise thinks. Therefore, to begin with, we have to try and find the hard times in order for them to come to us in potential and not in practice, meaning that to begin with, we prepare ourselves to use them, so to speak, ahead of time, and that's called that we're hastening time, and that is in general the role of Israel, to shift from the path of in the natural course of time to the hastening of time, where I bring these states closer by using them correctly. By this I also show myself how I gladly accept the phases of development, the process of development, in a healthy way, in a consciously understanding, advancing, because really, as someone who is a hero and not miserable, I want for the deficiencies, for the problems to come, because I'm ready from them to build our degrees and levels of ascent. And so I invite all of my friends to relate this way to life and the future, meaning let's draw it closer, let's bring it closer and ascend. The purpose of this conversation is to create an explanation for the masses here in Israel. When you speak about it being worthwhile for us to prepare ourselves for radical situations here in Israel, you think that in our explanation in Israel. We have to talk about it, that we're standing before radical situation. If so, what kind? When we turn to the masses, the same as for ourselves, we create deficiencies that were not yet revealed in practice. I can't turn this way to the masses and tell them, oh, God forbid, the things that are going to happen, because a bad prophet, there is no such thing. Meaning you can't come that way. No one likes it, everyone will hate it, no one will accept it, but I have to come according to the deficiencies that are revealed today, and to clothe my attitude according to today's deficiencies. Suppose today what they're lacking is cottage cheese, an apartment, a specific kind of people, a few circles for the children, and some other such things. Let's say that for the time being, it's the cream of the essential things, meaning it's not that essential. But I have to turn to that deficiency, and the truth is that it doesn't matter what kind of problems and troubles do I turn to, because my method is the same method. And if I can evoke a deficiency for a person in what he's lacking a bit more than he is feeling himself, because these deficiencies, okay, I won't run around now because my child is lacking some circle. Okay, so it's lacking, so what? But if, God forbid, there is something lacking in health or food, then I get up and run. But I can sharpen a bit these deficiencies in order for it to be enough for a person, the feeling of these deficiencies, to hear what I'm telling him. Because if he has everything that he needs, then he is blocked, he's deaf, and he doesn't hear anything from what I say. We have to nonetheless develop that very deficiency, specifically that very deficiency that a person feels, obviously. So now, what we need is to dress, to clothe upon those very deficiencies for the masses in different forms, for the different kinds of audience in Israel. And accordingly, to give them the method of correction, the solution. And the solution, it has to always come from the side of unity, consolidation of the nation. That eventually this is what we have to build. And of course, with a different kind of explanation for every kind of audience. So I don't really have to wait for the deep deficiencies where we really go into a state that we're lacking necessities and we don't have water and electricity and health problems and so on. It is enough now, to the smallest extent, if we already start now dripping to them that all of the problems and troubles come due to the lack of unity that we have among the people, and that we can get rid of all these problems, all of us, then gradually they'll become accustomed to this solution. They'll hear someplace that it'll be sitting in a person's box, and in case that even if now he doesn't want to use it and later on that it will increase, then he'll connect the two. We have to work on this ceaselessly. It's not enough just one shot, but all the time to give them, for every deficiency which is revealed, that same solution, only in a different manner and different forms. Of course, here we have to rely on scientists and anyone who in their eyes can be the decisive, the convincing, and so on. I see that you're not continuing with the same line you started a few days ago. What line? A few days ago, you said that we must start creating materials for radical states that can happen in the country, and till it happens, it might take a few months, but we have to start now. Yes, okay. What I'm saying is that what we can come out with right now, along with that, we have to prepare explanation materials for the more acute states that, God forbid, suppose someone attacks our people, for us to have these materials ready, and the moment that something, God forbid, happens, and the first wave of this economical tsunami or a security tsunami or whatever other kind of tsunami, political tsunami, comes to the nation or within the nation with the protests and the different problems, we can always release these materials, which will mostly be ready. Maybe we'll have to adapt it a bit to those states, to those events that will happen. But all in all, we will be ready. This is what I meant. Meaning, starting now to start dripping, bit by bit, wherever possible, about everything that's happening, because nonetheless the crisis is already knocking on everyone's door. And the government is already talking about it, the news, the newspapers, everyone. So we're no longer like the prophets of evil, or a false prophet, but I'm going with the masses, not before them. This is why earlier I didn't talk about it, that we have to come out in a systematic way with an ongoing explanation. But starting August 2012, where people started to talk about it openly, that the Prime Minister started talking about it openly, that the crisis is coming here due to the different problems going on in Europe, the economical crisis, maybe soon there will be a political crisis, until there will come also a political crisis. And the worst crisis of all is the spiritual crisis. The spiritual crisis where all countries and nations of the world will truly come against Israel. And we see that these things are starting to happen in Europe, and they're increasing on a daily basis, where the hatred, anti-Semitism, different events, the escaping of Jews from there, the control, increasing power of the extreme Islam, and so on. These are very evident phenomenon, and in the newspapers or in the media, it's up front. They're not ashamed of it or anything, and they don't think that it has to be any other way. For the time being, all of the governments, they're going together, and the nations themselves, they're going with the extreme, with the radical Islam. And in every event against Jews, they accept it as something that's natural, supposed to be this way, because on their behalf as well, they feel the same, only that they can't reveal it in practice. And here, comes the radical Islam with the millions of immigrants and are performing that, are taking that action which all of the Europeans agree with to begin with. These things will increase and they will work for the isolation of the state of Israel and the people of Israel all over the world. And this is why, from our explanation here to the people of Israel, where it's not that felt and people aren't that aware of what's going on out there and they don't really feel the anti-Semitism and the pressure, it's something marginal that's going on somewhere out there. But accordingly, we have to aim our explanation in Europe and in America to Jews in Europe and America. This is already the second wave that we have to develop. First of all, for the people of Israel in the state of Israel, and afterwards the people of Israel all over the world. You started with the economical crisis. You said that the government is already talking about the crisis coming closer from Europe here. If they started talking about the economical crisis, we can already open this line. What line? The line of economy. Where will it, what will it deteriorate to? What will happen? Somehow we can advance in this lane. Each time give a bit more forward. There are things that we don't want to open up. I don't want to talk about the state of the people of Israel now, that they're in a state where the whole world comes to them and demands from them and wants to destroy them, and there are real wars going on here and so on. I don't want to talk about these kinds of things. It really seems extreme, exaggerated, but things that are already public domain, I can clothe our method. Okay. So, what are you talking about now? The economical crisis? Especially the economical crisis, crisis in education, different light, soft things that exist in the country. Education, economy, treating the simple citizen on behalf of the authorities, the government, the health care system, pension, everything that has to do with a person's ordinary life, with the ordinary person's life. And here, my method of explanation should be accordingly. I have to prove to them how, through the connection between us, specifically these problems that the ordinary citizen feels, how these problems can disappear. How do we neutralize them? But specifically these problems, for the time being, I'm not talking about the climate, because no one cares about that, so it's a bit warmer. Okay, the whole world's suffering. A sorrow shared is a sorrow halved. Something else, I don't know, security, it's not that bad. Okay, so there's the threat from Iran, but there's as if nothing that you can do about it. If you start telling them that by our method this will also solve the Iran threat, then you become some kind of you become unrealistic. That you're, I don't know, you're into mysticism, some kind of forces of I don't know. People understand what they have in their hands. So with respect to that, so we focused ourselves and the people understand what they have in their hands. You're talking about the crisis in economics and security and pension and so on. Okay, so after we focused on these things, things that every citizen feels, okay, so I recommend to them, why rely on the country? When will the country come to you and help you? It won't help you. Let us develop mutual um, support, help. Let's, first of all, uh, open with a wave of getting to know ourselves. Who are you, the people of Israel? We'll have different round tables and lectures on squares, workshops. Let's talk between us. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other. Not through the window of your car and not through your mobile phone or computer screen, but let's really sit together, talk together, and then we have to operate like we're already planning in thousands of circles, things that we call round tables or workshops, and really turn it into a wave, thousands and thousands of such events. We see that the people like it. And along with it, we can turn to the governments and to the local authorities for them to help us do this, to participate. We are the organizers. We can organize, but they will give it the local support, the financial support, and so on. In the materialistic, in tables, chairs, illumination, these kinds of things. And then we have to do what we do. And we needn't only turn to local municipalities, but also to the government, because we can already prove to them from what happened, and it's also not hard to understand, that through such actions we soften the people. These actions are like a softening material. It's that then the masses, they don't go out with riots and protests and revolutions and yelling, and there will be yelling, but also we come out as an explanation department about what do we depend on, why is it happening the way it is. Because if we want to give them the method of correction, then before that we explain what the corruption is. What does it come from? If the corruption would have come from the government because it's bad, or it's doing wrong from a specific person, then switch that specific person or the government, and then that corruption will go away. The very opposite, as opposed to all those taking to the streets wanting to create riots, we explain to them that the corruption, it's not because of anyone in specific, but because it's due to the lack of unity among the people, and therefore we clear the government, any government, regardless which government, from any blame. We say that this is the deterioration of the nation. It is the state of the nation that if we connect, if we unite, all of these corruptions will disappear with that very government, even with that very same budget, with those same actions which they take. It all depends on the connection between us. So our attitude is good for any municipality, for any local municipality, and even the government. We're not blaming anyone, and our solution is such that it doesn't demand anything from them, but light support from the government, maybe support in media, that will need their help, and the different community centers, and in short, the local authorities. We can develop very broad support here from above and from below, and we're talking about the unification of the people, about the unity. We're not throwing anyone aside, including our cousins, including everyone. There's something that I don't understand. Okay. You said that the first thing is to explain where does the corruption come from, and it's due to the lack of unity among the people, and therefore it's not a problem of the regime or one or another government, but it's because of the lack of unity in the people, among the people. That's right on the psychological level. No, I didn't explain that yet. I only mentioned a few points. Because what I wanted to say here is that we're not against anyone. We're not blaming anyone. We're not saying that this happened due to their mistake. And if we'll change them, then the problem will disappear. In our method, we have priority. Again, we're more preferable than anyone else that can come with any other kind of advice. Because here we're not against, and we're not to curse or destroy or anything, nothing. And also, when we turn to the people, we tell them, look, we don't depend on anyone, and it doesn't cost us any money. And let's check in a few weeks how we will start feeling that everything falls into place from one day to the next, really. Because today you have much data in economics that you measure things. It's called happiness economics. That it doesn't depend on money. That if we open storages for distributing goods and food and places with free circles for children and different other such aiding institutions for us on behalf of the municipality and so on, that will start working voluntarily for everyone, will feel that by this we save plenty of money. That suddenly we even have surplus. Let's take the cleaning on ourselves, order, maintenance, different other things, saving water, saving electricity in the city itself. Let's have a competition of who uses the least or something like that. Suddenly we start feeling that we have surplus, we have fat that we didn't even use before. It was simply, slipped between our fingers. And now we cut it off and put it in the right place. Suppose for children, for different circles, extracurricular activities, and so on and so forth. We can organize these things. If we sharpen our view like a good boss, like a good host that sees everything in his house, how can he benefit? Then from what he has, he can arrange things correctly. And someone else who doesn't see that, and especially he doesn't have the desire for it, then everything works there crookedly. Meaning it's all up to the education of the nation and a man's attitude toward his environment, and also especially with our kids. Let's go into schools. Let's open circles for them. Let's sit them to round tables. Let's try and bring them to participate with us, for them to feel themselves important, and so on and so forth. We'll give them the same environment at home, and unity, mutual participation. At schools, everywhere, we'll see a change in the percentage of crime rates and all that's going on in the city, drug usage, everything. Our life, our modern life, has disconnected a person from being boss over his own life. He becomes used to, accustomed to that someone has to do it for him. And we see that it's very bad because no one does anything. Does the health ministry care for health? Ministry of Education, do they care for education? And if you put someone else instead of them, won't help. We should take care of ourselves. I can replace any other office besides the defense. Any other office, I can change. No problem. Together, we will, govern our small town. Look what's going on in the States. Dozens. Today have 70 small cities that are in bankruptcy. In August 2012, what's going to happen in a little? It'll come to bigger cities and even to the really big cities. In China, it's starting to happen as well now. So, what kind of solution is there for the citizens? They should take the responsibility upon themselves. They should start themselves to manage all of the services that they themselves have to receive. That's it. But why can't they? There's no connection between them. There's no one to arrange the connection, because any connection that starts, any unity that begins already, any connection that begins already pops up the question of who's the head. And here, as Kabbalist Dr says, it's education. Therefore, first of all, we have to be educated. But a bit before we do that, we have to have a few workshops, a few conversations about what? That we have to do everything equally. There's no distribution of roles, of offices, but everyone, of course, there will be, of course, we'll have there some kind of a division for there not to be a whole mess. But like in voluntary organizations where everything is voluntary, where whatever action we take, eventually we want to do good to those citizens. Unity, it means where everyone is equal. Therefore, without education that goes hand in hand with all the actions in the field, it's impossible. And the same way we build the unity of the people, we also help ourselves in our day-to-day needs. And we reach a state where inside ourselves we start feeling a special force of unity called the upper force, because our force is the force of separation. A force that is higher than us is the force of unity, the spiritual force. And then inside it we already start feeling a completely different life, from simple connection to something that's developing and breaking out and bringing a person to a feeling of unity on a different level, on a new level of humanity. If I understand what you say, you're talking about a person having to shift from some passive state to an active state. each and every one. Suppose yesterday we had a workshop. So after the workshop and after such an evening, I think that if we could uh, present a plan that our friends, you suppose, came from 40 different places in the country. Let's, in a week's time, each one, or in 2 or 3 weeks, doesn't matter, each and every one, meaning each and every group, wherever it is, we will arrange roundtables or workshops in our places. By that, we reach the broad audiences. Also, like it was yesterday, with refreshments, with a cultural event and singing and so on. You come, you're happy, you participate, you like it. Great. People start feeling that in the connection between us there is something special, good, okay. So let's reach a simple explanation about how can we, according to some kind of town or according to the problems that they have to arrange something accordingly. To begin with, some kind of an action where we participate in, some support, some kind of a warehouse with goods or food for the needy or courses for children, activities for children, or let's do something, some action closest to the people, a voluntary action. Of course, the municipality there gives its support. Suppose all of us collect 10 shekels from everyone. Suppose we have 1,000 people. We've collected 10,000 shekels. From this, we can start doing something. Suppose something like that, small things. And then we collect from the rest of the town, and suppose we decide we have some kind of a warehouse, or we rent some place where we have different activities for children, sports, music, drawing. We open a place for free. Who can volunteer? You twice a week, 2 hours a week. You can you can give such a circle, you can give such an activity. Okay, let's start organizing it. Great. Let's make something for the elderly. There are plenty of things that you can do. The only thing missing is the participation. And every time we have to make sure that that participation gets an inner force, a force from within through these activities called workshops and through the publicizing how important the people participating in it are, whom you should take an example from, and by awakening their kids toward that, because a person, he really likes feeling important in the eyes of his children. There is no greater fulfillment for a person, no greater pleasure than the being appreciated by your successors. That's how nature is. We have to merely learn how to use these things correctly. It's like a broad map, and we'll advance that way. You're saying that what we're lacking is only the participation of the public, actually. So we'll teach them out of this participation, out of these things where they feel that it will benefit their life, improve their life. We'll open storages with dishes and furniture and clothes and different other such things. We'll help each other this way. We'll start getting to know other people, appreciating them, elevating them. Suddenly, the town starts getting some form of connection. We'll bring some kind of a band to the city square on one of the evenings on the week for them to play, and different other such things. We'll maybe start organizing and buying basic foods. Suppose that we'll decide on a base on what the necessary basic foods are. Whoever wants can in whoever wants can register and enroll, and after we organize all of this and so on with the storage and all, you can get whatever you registered for, and you get like two shekels off for every item. Suppose already you have another 1 or 2,000 shekels a month, which is it's important, along with not paying for some activities for your children, 500 shekels. Then alongside with it, you already have 2,000 shekels. Your kid can have a bike for free and use it. So you made another 50 shekels a month, however much it will cost you in payments and so on and so forth. Suddenly, you start enjoying life. You don't pay for it. You raise your level of life, of living. I'm not talking now about the inner satisfaction. Suddenly, you're not afraid that your daughter is going out in the evening. The town itself is taking on different form. You can measure the number of the extent of drug usage, alcohol consumption, bullying, rape, violence. You can measure all these things. Police itself will be able to tell you what's going on. In problems and edginess and even health, you can make a statistics about what's going on. How this whole process that sounds excellent, it's based on the citizens donating their time, their desire, a bit, but each he benefits plenty. If you're now told, we pay you 2,000 shekels a month, and and activities for your children, that's another 500 shekels, and a bicycle, it's another 50 shekels, and different other things from the municipality. Suppose water, half the price, because we're not exaggerating all over the city and we're saving and so on, and electricity and who knows what, plenty of things. We buy things in a concentrated way. You come out with double your money. You can calculate this. You're an accountant. So for this, will you not donate for your fame, pride, the honor that you'll get? Won't you donate a few hours a week for some kind of, I don't know, to work in some storage or to serve the public in some other way? To serve the citizens, and with you comes a doctor and a driver and a musician and a simple person, and they're all equal. You're all equal, and you're proud about being volunteers. I remember that in my times there was this thing called civil defense. It was in 1975, I think. So I used to walk around with this check gun. I was to walk around on the streets. It was always with two, three other people. We used to walk around in the neighborhood. So once it was with a teacher, another time with an engineer, someone else. There was really someone I like to talk to him. He was a professor, a scientist, I don't exactly remember what. And everyone was proud that now we're going out to the civil defense to protect our neighborhood or something. And it wasn't, it was something respectful. I remember how my wife used to understand that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going out to this kind of action. These things, the way you described with civil defense, it's not an innovation or something. No, but I'm only saying that it wasn't something disrespectful. It was honorable, always. Same here. We're doing in favor of our neighborhood, in favor of the people, in favor of all of us, and I'm a volunteer, and I do my share. And I'm telling you that in this, everyone is equal. This is what attracts people. Why? Because equality, it protects you from flaws, from different things. If you're high, you enjoy everyone seeing that you're like others, that you come down to them, you're simple. You know what simple is? This definition among the masses. A simple person, a common folk. Simple meaning that he's not proudful, he can come down to anyone. It's very respectable. Or the other way around, that I'm small, but I'm with all the others. Now all of us are together. I'm like everyone else now. In unity, you have a feeling of compensation on all levels. I didn't exactly understand. You said that equality is what attracts people in this kind of civil service. What's so appealing, attracting about it? That people want to show themselves that they're donating, that they're human, that they're, how to say, they're ready to give without any kind of a self-reception. It elevates them, raises them above this world. There's this kind of feeling. Why do all the players or all the big singers, the actors are the big singers or whoever, they come and give concerts to sick children, and, for donations and so on. Why? Because not only that it gives them a good name in the public, usually we don't even know and feel it, don't hear about it, but it gives themselves a sense of greatness, belonging to someone, to something bigger than life itself, where the only calculation or things that is important between us is money. I'm asking you, suppose you're asked to do something for everyone in favor of the city, suppose, and you're capable of doing it. You're proud. You're proud that you're doing it for them. We have to give a good compensation for it. We have to publicize it. We have to publicize the investment of each and every one. Otherwise, it won't be, otherwise they'll have no fuel. If not money, then appreciation. And it's much more than money. Why? This is how we're built. Because it's the ego. This is how it receives things. A person can get the ego, it's secondary. After food and sex and family, the next thing is honor. Honor is the most important. I have a question. In all the explanations that you're giving us here that are 100% rational in the simplest form, there's some kind of we're overseeing a process that's going on in the past few years in our country. This whole idea leans on my participation and donation for the rest. It's a basis that I grew on, and really I feel that the country was created based on this. That's how our country developed and grew. It was built on this. Through hard times and so on. And like you say, that in the past you were in the civil defense and so on. All of these processes that lean on voluntary force exist today as well, only that the amount of the public participating, I didn't make research in it, but I have a feeling that throughout the years it's in decline. How do I know? You don't have to be a big scientist. I look at the place where you see it the most, the army. The Israeli Defense Forces today in the public, I know that the percent of those that recruit to the army is in constant decline. If in the past a person was, dreaming about being in the best, most active forces and donating whatever he can, then today any young fellow, second and third for sure, he simply doesn't enroll. He has other thoughts, and this proves that the process that you're describing shows that we're not only on our path toward that, but we're distancing from it. So, what can you advise us to do to start anew this whole thing among the masses? If we won't convince them, life will convince them. We can't wait. We have to feel an obligation to find a way and a path to a person's heart, to awaken him with the need to connect. And we're not simply giving him a connection, explaining that connecting is good, that it's spiritual, that who knows what, be a good kid, but we clothe it on his true needs. But again, I'm saying it should all be accompanied with explanation and lectures and such explanations that he will feel that there is nothing else in life. What do you mean? That we see that we feel that our life is ever more empty, and here you give him fulfillment. I saw it yesterday, how happy people were by coming to the unity event like we had yesterday, and they were inspired and excited and got plenty of strength as a result of being in conversation with one another, singing, speaking. They got something good to eat and happily bought different souvenirs, just in order to participate in the building of some mutual business, meaning our new building, and so on. Okay, what? Okay, what? So it all depends on our explanation, our propaganda. Okay, that's clear. I'm not asking about that. I have no doubt about that. I'm asking, whoever participates does, whoever doesn't. It all comes in circles. In each and every town, there are such activities that people will come to because they'll feel that it's good. They have some kind of a closeness to it because of the point in the heart. There are such circles that feel that we should do it because it's good for the masses, altruists and so on. There are such segments in the people that will come because they feel that we should. There's benefit for children in it, or for the elderly, or storage, or something, or opening a kitchen for the really hungry, or something that once a day there you have a good meal there. Simple, but for everyone, anyone can come. Anyone who has a ticket. It's not for everyone. Whoever is not participating, he doesn't get a ticket. And then for him, all these storages and whatever do not exist. It's a network. And so on and so forth. Meaning you are getting a fulfillment for your needs, for your day-to-day needs, family, home, kids, everything, by participating. Not in money, because you don't have money, but it's equivalent to much more than money. Calculate, and you'll see that you're making much more. It's worth to thousands of shekels a month. And besides that, you get compensation of pride, connection, unity, a good, nice feeling. Meaning there's a fulfillment here coming from all sides, as if you got a few more thousands of shekels to your pocket and you got something good for your soul. And the problems and troubles are increasing from month to month for sure, and accordingly you're searching, how can I compensate for them? How can I nonetheless build something atop all that which compensates, that every time that a new blow comes and reveals a new deficiency, all of us together in our audience, we try and build a safety net, such a cushion for us to not feel those oncoming problems. Besides the defense forces, we can protect everyone this way, up to the point where we buy a generator and we create electricity ourselves for our town, and we do not depend on the electrical company. I'm telling you, I was in this place up north called Oregonuz. It's next to Miron. They have their own generator. They say it's much cheaper. I don't know what about today with the cost of solar, but they say that it's much cheaper than we get from the electrical company. Really, we can do that. We can play with everyone, with the different marketing networks, with everything. And the benefit that we get from the youth, from the young generation, how they are brought up as a result, the education they get from this. Today, you only have, it only pinches your heart. You have sorrow in your heart for the way they grow up. The rest, you'll see yourself. I'm not talking here about the reforming light, the inner force that's in it, but we have to take into consideration that in each and every action, something is awakening them there from within, some new energy, some new force. Call it the force of unity that awakens. It works. You can ask the doctors. I'm telling you, I'm not talking about psychologists. I'm talking about doctors. The extent to which the level of health will rise. We know that most of the, I'd say all, but suppose most of the illnesses come from frustrations, come from the deficiencies. Meaning, what do I make here as opposed to what I benefit. It all depends on the propaganda of how do I arrange my explanation and give it to everyone. And if on the first month there will not enough people, you'll see what's happening on the second and third month, because the blows will come and we will already be protected. But alongside with this, there has to be constant education all the time in parallel. If I understand what you say, then the innovation here in respect to voluntarily to the voluntary organizations that are working here, and there are many of them, there is something that is two ways. In the general voluntary organizations that work today, they don't demand demand anything from a person. They don't demand for his participation. They collect money, they open storages and give it out. That's called all of those merciful, so to speak, organizations. It's also good. I come there, I give, suppose, a deposit, 500 shekels. I take a carriage that costs 500 shekels and I use it. I have the different, not merciful, but charity organizations. Okay, so I give it back in a month's time, and I pay for using it 10 or 20 shekels, whatever it costs, due to the amortization of the material. So, and I can do it with any other professional. So he'll take another 5-10 shekels, but it's no problem. And these things exist in several countries that you come, take, and give back. I don't even know what. I don't know. A vacuum cleaner. It's something that, you know, how much it costs and that you have at home. But here, no. We build it not on profit, and we don't build it on profit and loss, but we build it only on the good desire of people that want to connect for reciprocal help. In these charity organizations, there's nothing reciprocal. It is for the poor, the needy, you know, you open different places for them in order to ease things up for them. And also lately, all these organizations, how much they take and so on, it's really becoming, you know what, it's a business, and a pretty profitable business. So that's the innovation. This is the innovation, that by this we achieve the unity of the people. Yeah, I'm not asking about that. I'm talking about the reciprocity, meaning in order to enjoy these services that are based on voluntary force, I myself must donate voluntary force into the system. This is the condition? Yes. So I think this is an innovation that does not exist today in the different charity organizations. Why do you think that this will bring to the improvement of the situation of the people, of the masses? I'll explain. If today the voluntary organizations, regardless which, any voluntary charity organizations that give services to the public without, without money or for something symbolic, for a symbolic price, if you're such an organization, I come to you, I need support, I get something. Now you've made my situation worse. You tell me, stop. You can't simply take. Did you donate? Did you donate somehow to this network, voluntary donor network? If you don't have, that ticket, you can't get anything. If I was a simple person, then my situation, then I'm worse off, because to this day the different charity organizations helped me. But now you open a parallel network that has a new law. There's no longer such a thing to simply get. That you need doesn't necessarily mean that you're eligible. Today, all these organizations say you need, please take. You declared a certain need, we have what you need, we give it to you. Now the situation of the citizen will become even harder. No, because the way these organizations are built today, you can get very limited services from them. You, all in all, make those few services or things that they can give to the masses, you make them cheaper. That's it. But by this A, you do not make them partners. Who? All the citizens, residents. This is my goal. And besides, you do not improve the attitude between them, the atmosphere. You don't take into consideration the atmosphere that they live in as a result of the mutuality. This is one thing. And another thing is, you can't give them a compensation in circles for children and different activities and extracurricular activities for children. Look what they do. Even if you have 20, 30 charity organizations, they're all in all set in order to give you for a short period of time chairs, tables, suitcases, very limited things. Here we're talking about by the participation of people, we want to turn that town into a business, one organization, a commune. What does this mean? For them to be able to organize and buy everything together in a cheaper way, to use electricity and water together, to reach such a reciprocity that it will be shared for everyone relatively equally, according to man's ability. That's what will divide everything. To share what? Everything. We are reaching ever harder situations, ever harder economical decrees. Accordingly, we have to see how can we be ever more united in order to make it easier for everyone, for us to be able to at least keep the necessary standard of living, and in addition, to give as many services as possible to whatever we need. The charity organizations themselves do not make things much easier for you. That you don't have to buy a carriage but take it from them, or a table or a chair, that you, when you have some kind of a party or whatever. We're not talking about this, even though this is also good. Food for the needy. Yesterday, I got a summary of activities of one of the organizations. Usually it goes into my spam. This time I don't know. It came to my mail and they write, I don't remember the name of the organization, but they show you a report. This year we did this and this and that. So I remember that it says there that they gave food to the needy. There are many activists in this field. Okay, suppose food for the needy. It's not bad. Now, were I needy and I came yesterday and got food from this organization, now from this new social network, I won't be able to get food from them. They'll tell me, no, you won't be able to get, no. Are you giving something? Are you donating something? If you're an ordinary person, you have strength and you can donate, you can't get anything if you're not donating. And you think that this model is what? It's preferable? Everyone does what he can and gets what he needs. This is the model. Can you explain, please? This way, reciprocally. I care for fulfilling all your basic needs, corporeal and spiritual, and I demand from you your participation in that same network that provides you with necessary things. Necessity from me and necessity from you. Reciprocity, this is what brings the connection between us. If you don't understand this principle, you do not deserve getting anything. It's not simply chesed, mercy, meaning it's chesed and din, mercy and judgments together, because we are an educational institution, educational organization. And therefore it is impossible for a person to get something without giving. It's not charity. The connection can be only on condition that both of them receive and both of them give. And if one gives and the other receives, it's not a connection. Connection is reciprocity, where you're equal. Where you're equal is that one gives the other and gets from the other. In this kind of an organization, where will there be measurements? Suppose you and I, both of us, I don't even know how to call it. Is it correct to say volunteers? Because it's two ways. Suppose I dedicate 1-2 hours for some activity. If we agree that it's enough. No, I mean, if the organization agrees, and if the organization does not agree, they'll tell you that it's not enough. Yes, but I suppose that the organization will take it into consideration. In some things they will take this into consideration, and some things they won't. So it will be, of course, taking into consideration a person's abilities. Most of the people, they work full-time, so this organization, unless they mean for only unemployed to come and deal to them. If they're unemployed, you have plenty of time. I mean that you can't demand for me 20 hours of volunteering a week. In my calendar, I don't have 20 hours. So you say, okay, here, you already gave me one kind of measurement. Relatively. It means that to the extent to which you have free time. Okay, so there'll have to be here some kind of a process that a person will decide on, or it will be. I'll give you an example. Suppose you're very talented, and you're a professor and who knows what, and really you are busy from dusk till dawn, but you really want to be in this network. Not even that you're not a needy person, but this idea is charming for you, and you succeed from your so overwhelmed schedule to find an hour a week, and you come and dedicate this hour from the bottom of your heart. I'm a clerk in one of the cellular phone companies. Come in the morning, leave at 5. I can find 8 hours to donate. With respect to this social network, who is defined as giving more? You, who gave a super effort to find an hour a week because you're all the time in research, you're one of the best professionals, and I have more time, free time than you. Both of them relatively donate relative amount of hours proportionally to the extent to which they're busy or free. Who can determine that? I'll tell you, this also happens in my work now, because I, as a professor, suppose I gave a lecture in America. When I give a lecture, I get a check for $1,000. I had such checks. You, that in an hour, whatever you give for your services, you get 50 shekels for your services per hour. Now we work this way as well. This is with respect to your paycheck at work, but here we're not talking about that. Yeah, but I'm telling you that now we're measured as well. Our investment is measured relatively. How much can I donate and how much you can donate? My donation is supposed 20 times greater than your donation. This is why your hours toward the organization, you can donate more. You do, I can donate less. I donate less. What can we do? I understand the monetary evaluation. Okay, but I'm telling you, it's not about that, but we have to bring the public to a state where everyone, his whole free time, he'll be happy to dedicate it to the service of the public. Like Balasulam writes about it, that everyone will work 10, 12 hours a day and more for the benefit of the public. It seems to me like a goal that we want to advance to. Yes, but it depends on education. Okay, clearly. But I want to ask, in this state, it sounds already like a corrected state where a person really gives all that he has, all that he can. But we're building a gradual process. This does not exist to this day. I didn't get an answer about this yet. A person, you're a professor and I'm a clerk, wherever. You succeeded to find an hour a week. I found 6 hours a week. This social voluntary network, will they treat you better or less than me? How will they know? Who will define this, you or the network? How can the network know? The network, but how will they know? Meaning, Balasulam writes about it as well, that people go from home to home and find these things out. What are the necessities and what are your abilities? Meaning, you'll provide some information and accordingly. Okay, this is with the input of what do you get. This is the measurement of what do you get from that network. Now, you'll get a ticket, a membership ticket, and I'll get a membership ticket. Now, this membership ticket, will it be one size for everyone? Or I don't know. I don't want to get into these things. It's so unrealistic for the time being that it doesn't seem to me that now that we'll start arguing and, scrutinizing this, that it'll help us. So one basic principle, you've participated, you're inside, and we're equal then. Yes, we're equal. Okay, I think that we will end our conversation for today. So thank you very much, Dr. Laitman. Thank you for being with us. We'll continue on our further conversations. Until then, all the best.